Guys, welcome back. It is Racer X, and today I actually want to talk a little bit about a platform that I really just don't talk about much, which is the Charger RT. I know I put out a lot of Hellcat content, a lot of Scat Pack content. Obviously, owning those two cars helps a lot. But with everything happening in the world and it just being a crappy day outside, I thought, you know what, I really kind of want to focus on the RT. A lot of people own these cars, and I'm starting to figure out why. They make fantastic daily drivers. So I'm going to tell you my thoughts on why these things make such good daily drivers, and gotta just give you my insights on it, guys. So also, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button down here on the bottom, and we are off. We got the 1,000 horsepower helmet. God. So I know as sports car people, it's kind of hard to think about practicality, but when we think about daily drivers, that's exactly what we need to think about. We need to think about sort of the daily rigors, the daily driving of just going to work, getting back, going to the grocery store, just doing normal things, hauling kids around, whatever it may be. And when you think about a car like the Charger, it does those things quite well. But you know what? We as sports car people, we don't always want the most practical. I'm guilty of it. I know a lot of my buddies are guilty of it. We kind of want the fun factor. Well, I feel like the RT does both of these things really, really well. I mean, yes, I have a Charger Hellcat, and is there some practicality to it? I can put 5 people in the car if I want to. The car also gets about 8 miles a gallon. So, you know, from that perspective, it doesn't necessarily make sense. But an RT, a little bit different story, because you know what? It's not quite as expensive as a Scat Pack. A lot of people will say, you know what, just give me the Scat Pack. But there's about an $8,000 difference in trim level for trim level between a Charger RT and a Charger Scat Pack. Also, this particular car, the RT, gets better gas mileage than its larger brother, the 6.4 liter Hemi. So also you have to take fuel economy into account when you're talking about these vehicles. So what else does it do? Well, think about it from an insurance perspective, right? This car is less to insure. It's a smaller motor. However, you still get a lot of fun factors like you would like in the Scat Pack. For example, the car, because it does have a V8, it's the 5.7 V8, of course, versus the 6.4, it still sounds fantastic, like when you put an exhaust on it. So definitely something to think about there. So now I'm actually aboard the Charger RT, and I have to say, obviously, it feels very comfortable and very familiar, having owned, obviously, the Charger Hellcat. It just feels like a normal place to sit for me. But I have to say, you know, this car offers kind of a unique driving experience. It doesn't quite have that same just snappy punch that the Scat Pack has, but it still feels quite responsive. You can definitely feel the V8 power in this car. It definitely doesn't feel like it's short on power by any means. Obviously, for somebody like me who's used to owning very, very powerful cars, yeah, it's not going to have quite that same feel and that same rush, but at the same time, the car feels plenty powerful. The pickup feels really nice and firm in it. The power is very predictable, and genuinely, it's just a very comfortable, sort of fun car to drive. And like I said, I'm not somebody who has done a lot of content on the RT, whether it be the Charger or the Challenger, but I have to say that, I mean, it just seems to be a really well-rounded package. Now, not everybody, and this is hard for me to admit, but not everybody likes to go to the track all the time, right? I'm a drag racer. It's what I do. That's why I like to own the faster cars. But if you're just tooling around on the street all the time and you're not a drag racer, I have to tell you, this little 5.7 package that they offer is really, really solid. I mean, this is a motor that, yes, it's been around for quite some time, but you know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, this is a motor that they put in their trucks for a long time, and it's just a really solid, well-proven engine that they stick in these things. And you know what? It really does a good job of moving this car around. And so, like I said, you know, with all the seats it has in it, there's that measure of practicality, but it still has some fun factor to it. And even from a stoplight in the rain, it still punches pretty darn good. So absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, the exhaust note in this car is a little bit different than it is on the 6.4, the Scat Pack. But you know what? It does have kind of a nice throaty, you know, it's got that traditional Hemi sound to it. It's a little, like I said, it's a little different than the 6.4, but it still sounds really good. And I can imagine if you put an aftermarket exhaust on this car, it would really sound good. And obviously the car looks almost identical to a Scat Pack, really. And then of course this is a Daytona edition, which I actually really like. I kind of dig this orange with the black. I think it's kind of unique and you know, a little bit retro, but you know what, the overall package of this thing is just really solid. So when we talk about practicality, one of the other sort of big advantages of the 5.7 over the 6.4 is the fact that different compression ratio, right? Which means you can run like 87 octane on this car, which on the 6.4 you simply can't do that. You have to run a much higher octane, different compression ratio, really a little bit different motor. So you know, definitely something to think about. Like I said, we're talking about practicality and fun. We've got to mix the two together. And one other thing that I've discovered is that you can actually get the same drive modes in the RT that you get in the Scat Pack. So, you know, I mean, trim level for trim level, you can kind of match everything up between this one and the 6.4. Also, it's really just the motor in the two cars, guys. That's the big difference. But if you're looking for practicality and fun, I don't know, man, the RT seems like a really solid option for a lot of people, especially if you're on a budget. So one of my more recent videos, I actually talked about modding and what it takes to make an RT as fast as a Scat Pack. You know, because this motor's not quite as optimized from the factory like the Scat Pack is, it kind of makes it cool when you do modify it, because you do see more of a difference mod for mod on this car. For example, long tubes, you will pick up more horsepower on this particular model than you will on a Scat Pack. It's just a little bit of a different design on the exhaust. So same a lot of times with the intakes. The intakes, you're going to pick up more power on this one than you will on a Scat Pack. A little bit different design there as well. So mod for mod, if you're wanting to mod the car, you will see a bigger difference mod for mod on the Scat Pack, I'm sorry, on the RT than you will on the Scat Pack. So don't be afraid to mod the car a little bit and have a little bit of fun with it. So I know I've talked a lot about how the RT stacks up against its big brother in the 6.4, but I've not talked a lot about really how it stacks up against the other competition out there and what makes the Charger RT such a great daily driver. Well, let's look at the Mustang, for example. Mustang's a great car, and actually for the money you get a lot of punch. You're talking like, what, 460 horsepower, and you can go buy a reasonably equipped Mustang GT for what, in the mid 30s, maybe lower, if you can find a fantastic deal somewhere. I mean, it really just depends on the trim level. But at the same token, when we're talking about practicality, this car has a big comfortable back seat in it. That's the Charger. It just is what it is, right? The Mustang back seat is very small by comparison. The trunk is smaller by comparison. It's just not quite as practical. It really depends on your situation. If it's just you and your spouse, you don't need much of a back seat, you don't need much of a trunk, okay. But for those of us with families, this car is fantastic. It's big, it's comfortable, the suspension is good in it. You know, there's a lot of things to say about the Charger. So when you compare it to the Camaro, you're looking at very much the same thing, right? The Camaro back seats are pretty small. Even the Challenger back seats are a little bit bigger. So you could almost daily the Challenger better than you could, say, the Camaro, at least in my opinion. Once again, the trunk design on the two cars on the Charger is better than it is on the Camaro, just from a practicality perspective. You can look at some of the other European type sedans, and some of them are fantastic in terms of the power they put out, the suspension, the powertrains are really solid, well made. But where are we at on price point versus a lot of those cars, right? Can you still put 87 octane in them? There's just really not that much, in my opinion, that compares well to this car, where it still has a lot of fun factor, it still sounds good, it still has a lot, a lot of punch. It's got that V8 grumble, but you don't have to really sacrifice that much in this car. What does it actually cost to buy like a Charger RT? I know the Challengers are basically right around that same price point. It depends on the trim level you get, guys. I mean, I've seen these in the kind of mid to high 30s. and they go all the way up to like 42 to 44,000, depending upon just how high a trim level you go, you know, the seat package and all that kind of stuff. But you know what, guys, you can actually get these because of Dodge and how they do their power dollars and all the different deals they have out there right now. You can get a super well equipped one of these for in the low to mid 30s, and one that has a little bit more of a bass feel to it you can actually get in the high 20s, believe it or not, if you get a good deal from your dealership. So yeah, I know the argument is, look, you know, there's lots of cars out there, Racer X, but I mean, can you get one that looks as good as this and still has all that practicality? That's really the whole measure of this video is, yeah, you can go buy a Toyota Camry, you can go buy a Prius or a smart car. Yeah, they get great gas mileage, but we also want something that looks good, something you want to be seen in every day. So there's also that factor to consider. I have to admit, I'm on the back roads back here, one of my favorite little back roads. This car really scoots. It really, really does. This car is still a lot of fun to drive, guys. It really is fun. I do just want to give a quick shout out to my buddy Nick, who let me borrow his car to do this review. Obviously, as I mentioned before, this really solid package on this car, and this car actually is for sale. So if somebody out there looks at this thing and says, I gotta have it, shoot me a little comment down below the video here and let me know, and I'll put you in touch with the owner, and you know what, maybe you guys can get it figured out. I have to admit that the RT is a pretty intriguing package to me. As I mentioned, I'm a big power guy. I like going to the track. You know what, but I'm kind of in the market for a new daily. And you know, this car has to be a pretty strong contender when you think about all the things that it does. It's not nearly as expensive to own and maintain an RT like it is the Scat Pack or certainly the Hellcat. You know, it doesn't have that crazy tire shredding power, but it's still got a really solid V8. It still sounds good. I mean, I'm literally on a back road right now and the car is just ripping around, and it inspires a lot of confidence driving it around. It doesn't feel out of control. It feels well balanced. It fits a lot of stuff. And you know what? It looks really, really good. It looks just like a Scat Pack does, and I really love the way a Charger Scat Pack looks. And it really doesn't look that different from a Hellcat. We know they waterfalled a lot of the features down. That's what Dodge does to some of the lower trim levels. But you know, this thing just seems to be a well-rounded, well-sorted package that you could easily daily drive, but still not have to sacrifice that V8 power that we all know and we all love. So definitely something to think about. It's something for me to think about. Guys, I may have missed a few points here or there, but I just wanted to kind of give you my best assessment on why I think this Charger RT is such a cool daily driver. I would be able to drive it in the rain, the snow. I mean, it just does a lot of things really well. So it's just a really fun little car. So anyway, guys, that's about all I had for today. It's been a fun one. I hope everybody stays safe out there. Hold your families tight, and like I said, we'll get over this virus thing here very, very soon. So until next time, guys, Racer X.